Hey everyone, I'm really excited about today's video. The 2.2 kilowatt spindle kit from Carbide 3D has arrived, and in today's video I'm going to be unboxing it and assembling it. This will be the first part of a two-part series. In the second part, I'm going to have a head-to-head comparison between the 1.2 kilowatt spindle and the 2.2 kilowatt spindle. So be on the lookout for that video. It should be coming out a few days after this one. So without any further ado, let's get into it and see what's in those boxes. Okay, so this is the spindle kit, the 80 millimeter 2.2 kilowatt spindle kit from Carbide 3D, and this is how it arrived to me. You have the chiller unit or the cooler unit, and then you have the spindle as well. So they arrived really well, no damage to them whatsoever. So let me open them up and we'll see what we got inside. All right, so I've opened the box and this is how it looks. Right off the bat, we have the coolant hose. And in this box, we've got a power cord for the spindle and the cable that goes from the spindle to the control box as well. That's pretty cool. And let's see, this little box is, I'm guessing, yeah, this is the new 80 millimeter bracket that goes to the Z-axis. I'm not going to unwrap that at the moment, and it comes with new bolts as well. So we've got that. Let's see, packing stuff. Awesome. It's the new VFD. I'll open that in a little bit. This is the new sweepy for the 80 millimeter spindle. Pretty cool. All right. It's wild to see everything so much larger. And this is the spindle itself. Oh wow. It's got the gas strut. That's the gas strut that'll hold it up. Wow, that's a big wrench. Comes with new wrenches, a 30 millimeter and what looks like a 21 millimeter as well. Pretty cool. And then the spindle itself. All right, so I unpacked everything and I pulled the spindle out and the VFD, and there's the new spindle, the 80 millimeter with an ER20 collet. It has the connections up top for the coolant lines, the three new collets. You get an 1/8, a 1/4, and a 1/2 inch collet. The new 80 millimeter housing to mount to the Z-axis, the gas strut to hold it up, wires, the new 80 millimeter sweepy, coolant line, the wires for it. And just to give you a comparison, this thing is, that's the old spindle. So this is the 65 millimeter, if I could get it to stay. So that's the size difference between the two. And that's looking at it, you know, that way. It's a huge difference in size. I mean, this 80 millimeter makes the 65 look like a toy, I'm not gonna lie. And it weighs a ton. So I don't mean that in a bad way. It's really, you know, heavy duty, let's just put it that way. So that's the top side of it. And yeah, so just in case you were wondering, you know, the difference in size. It's quite different, you know, especially the weight. The 65 is really light, you know, compared to the, I mean, it's hard to lift up. I'm not going to lie. It's very heavy. That's really good as far as from where I'm standing. It just, you know, tells me that it's really heavy duty, and that's what I've been looking for personally. I will now move on to the cooling unit, or the chilling unit, and I open that up, and this is how it comes. And right off the top, it's just the power wire and some instructions for it. More foam. All right, so I'm gonna have to put the camera down and then I'll pull it out. All right, so this is the water chiller, as they call it, as it comes out of the box. And nice looking little unit. Has a 9-liter capacity. And got your input, output, an alarm, power input, and a fan in the back, and a drain in the lower corner. Now, to my understanding, from what I read on the forums for this unit, is not technically a chiller, meaning it doesn't have a refrigeration unit in it. It is simply a cooler, from what I understand, in that, much like your car radiator, it has a coil with a fan, and the fluid travels through the coil, and the fan cools the fluid down to, you know, a cooler temperature, rather, you know, to dissipate the heat from it. It does not have a refrigeration unit where it actually chills the fluid. And from what I read, that's what you want for a spindle. And the reason being is that the spindle gets hot when it's operating, and if you put cold fluid into a hot thing, or, you know, something like the spindle, you're going to get condensation on the spindle, which is bad. So this is what you want for the type of situation that this is. You don't want a refrigeration unit putting cold fluid into a hot or warm spindle. That's going to be a no-no. So this is what they recommend, and so I'm looking forward to you know, seeing what it can do. All right, so that is the kit as it comes, and as you can see, you get quite a bit of stuff for the price, and everything is top quality and packaged extremely well, and as usual, and should be pretty easy install. So let me get started with the install. Okay, so for the first step in the process of installing the spindle, you're going to want to mount the spindle bracket to the Z-axis. And if you already had a spindle, the 65 millimeter, and you're upgrading to the 80, the 65 millimeter mounted to the lower holes, this 80 millimeter bracket will now mount to the upper, so to the highest holes on the middle of the bracket. So it's going to be a little higher than the other one. If you're, you know, going from a router, Makita router, this will be totally different, obviously, but I think it's the same. It'll mount, you know, higher than the other one. So you use the bolts that are supplied in the kit, and pretty straightforward. So now that that is installed, I can go ahead and install the bracket for the gas strut. And to install the gas strut, first you have to remove, there's a clip at the very bottom of it, and it's like a C-clip, so you're going to want to pop that out, and it comes out pretty easily. And then you want to pop off the end of this bracket, so you just pull out the little ball screw and make sure not to lose the little spring. It's really important. Keep those to the side because they got to go back in. And then on the bottom of the Z-axis, right here in the middle, there's a little bolt that has to come out, and you're going to loosen that and take it out. You can set that to the side. You're not going to need that. In its place, you will put this little ball end that you just took off, and that will simply screw right in. Okay. And then at the top, there's these two little screws, bolts. Those have to come out as well. Yeah. The kit comes with two new bolts that are a little longer. And this is the bracket that will attach here, and it will mount the gas strut to it. Okay, so now that that's tight, I'm going to go from the in between here and thread, pass in the gas strut. Then you're just going to pop this socket end back on. But you have to, there we go, get that little pin in the right socket. So once this is in, then it's just simply a matter of placing the other bolt through the hole at the top. Put the washer on it, and then there's a special nut. Has the C for carbide on it, and screw that on. Okay, so now that the strut is in place, the next step is to mount the spindle itself. And just going to double check that these are loose. There we go. And you want to mount it with the logo facing forward. I don't know the height yet, where I'm going to want it, but it is adjustable. You can set it to, whatever height works for you. It seems pretty close, but I might have to go a little lower. We'll see. All right, so next up will be to run the hoses for the coolant and the wire itself that will hook up to the spindle through the drag chain. Okay, so I've grouped together the cable and the two hoses for the coolant line. And this is the drag chain that goes, behind or along the gantry. And I have it in its arrangement here on the floor, because this can get a little tricky if you don't, if you're not careful with it. So I'm going to leave a certain amount sticking out from the front of it so that I have enough to, to get to the machine. And I will snap in about 5 of the links at a time, just to give myself, a little bit of an easier time, because this, the hose wants to you know, get away from you, so to speak. So it can get a little bit hard to control. But this is basically the process for both of the drag chains, you know, for the one on the gantry and the one that goes along the side rail. So I'm just going to show you real quick a couple of these, and then I'll do the rest of this off camera because it's just tedious and repetitive stuff. You just want to make sure that none of the hoses are kinked inside of here, you know, that they're free, and then you should be good. Yeah, so see, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically going to do a short section at a time, and all the way to the other end. I'll mount that one, and then I'll show you when I get to here, when I put the end cap back on. It's also important to note that on the side of the gantry, where you know, you're exiting the gantry and you're going into the side rail, you normally, before, you would put everything through this end cap and then come out the bottom and go through, but the hoses will kink if you do that, so you can't. You only put the cable through it and you leave the cables outside. I have a specific restriction from my post there. There's a very tight fit right here, so I have to pull my hoses in with some zip ties just to keep it snug. But that's basically how that is routed. Okay, so I've got the hose and the cable run through the drag chain, and I'm about to attach the cable connector to the spindle, the top of the spindle, and the two coolant hoses. So the connector is keyed a certain way, so it only goes in one way. You just push it down and then screw the threaded nut on it, and that's it. And then for the hoses, they have a little rubber cap that comes on them to keep it sealed. You just take that off. You put the nut on the hose first, slide it up on both of them, like so. And then you simply just push the hose on. They're pretty stiff. You may have to heat them up or warm them up if they're too cold, but they have a, you know, pretty snug fit. And then you just slide it back over and tighten down the nut. It's not important to, you know, you don't have to bottom out the nut or anything like that. It's not that kind of a fit. In fact, you don't want to go all the way down. You'll damage it. So I'm just going to get this other one on. There we go. Okay, and then it's simply a 14 millimeter wrench on it. Again, I'm just going until I kind of feel it grab and give it a little more. Okay, we'll see afterwards if you know, if there's any leaks. Then I can just tighten it up if there's anything at all. But that's it for that connection. And now I'm going to go to the back of the machine and connect it to the cooler and to the control box. So once you've finished connecting the hoses and the cable to the top of the spindle, you know, and you've run all of your lines through the drag chain, the work then continues at the back of the machine, where the hoses come out of the drag chain, as you can see there. And I ran my chiller unit behind the machine, and the connections back at the back of the machine, the cooler, are really simple. You just take the cut ends of the hose and you simply push in on this little dark blue fitting. You just push in on it and push the hose in. That's it. It's a really, really simple connection. Once you do that, I then opened up the tank and I filled it with about 9 liters or almost 3 gallons of antifreeze, car antifreeze. But make sure you use the pre-diluted, the form. It's much easier. If you use the concentrated form, you have to use distilled water and stuff like that. So it's better just to buy the pre-diluted one, and much easier for you. So once that's filled up, I also ran the cooler unit for about 3-4 minutes to get the air bubbles out of it, and that will bleed the system, and then you're good to go as far as the cooling unit is. Now for the wires that run to the VFD, I ran mine again through the channel in the back of the machine and came across, because I want my VFD to be on, if you're facing the front of the machine, you know, I wanted it to be on the right hand side with the rest of my control box and things like that. And so I have my VFD here. I had intended on placing it up above here on 2 hooks and have it hang, you know, underneath where my laptop goes. But I know a lot of you guys have been wondering, it was a very important question, was how long is that cable that comes from the spindle to the back of the machine? And if you run the cable like I did along the back down to this right hand side, that's all you get sticking out. It's about 10 inches of cable. For me, it's still too short because I like to have my VFD this time around. I want it on the right hand side of the machine, and it's a couple feet short, let's put it that way, maybe 3-4 feet short for what I want to use it for. If you have your machine on a table and you want to put your VFD under the table, you know, and you have it on the side, you'll be fine. You'll have plenty of wire for that. But in my circumstance, you know, I would have liked another 3 feet. It would have worked out a little better for me. So anyway, that wire that comes from the spindle, that's this one, it just simply plugs into the side of the VFD. Then you have the other wire that plugs in here, and that runs around and goes up into the control box. You still use the same adapter that you had for the other spindle. So that gets reused, and then the power cord, the 220 volt power cord, comes in and just plugs in to the side of the VFD there. And as far as the wiring and installation, that's really all there is to it. It's really simple. And what I did too is when I first turned on the spindle, I went into carbide motion and I ran the spindle warm up to just let it run through, make sure that it runs properly. And I found that this spindle is actually much quieter even than the other one. So it's really a pleasure. Okay, so that's going to conclude this video. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing and the install of the new 2.2 kilowatt spindle from Carbide 3D. Please stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be coming in a couple of days where I will have a head-to-head comparison test between the 1.2 kilowatt spindle and this one, the 2.2 kilowatt. They will run the same test, and we're really going to push the limits of both of them and see, you know, which one comes out ahead. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave any comments if you have any questions, and see you on the next one.